This is not how I thought I'd be spending my morning. I thought I was going to be playing with the new puppy. Not looking for it at the bottom of a cliff. Last time, on our 247-mile dirt road journey from Colorado to Utah, we leave Crested Butte through Kepler Pass and stock up for the next 2 weeks in Delta, Colorado. The next 70 miles will be nothing but gravel roads and off-road trails. And that's when we found this girl, alone in the desert. I think I might have just found another dog. A roughly 4-month-old pup with some fleas and a big appetite. We set up camp with the plan to call the local animal shelter in the morning and find out exactly how we could help this pup. Then, disaster. It's not a fun night last night. The dog needed to go pee. I let her out, and she's just gone. I looked everywhere. I took the flashlight out and canvassed the camp. I took the dirt bike out and rode around in the middle of the night. I searched for her from about 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. without any luck, and my worst fear was that she had fallen off the cliff next to us. And as the night slowly became dawn, it became time to start the real search. So it's been about 2 weeks since this all happened, and I'm quite a bit further on my journey from Colorado to Utah, but I'm still on the trail right now. Now, where we left off, I had a gut-wrenching feeling about what happened to this dog, and I had to go to bed that night not really knowing what happened to this pup. And when I say go to bed, it was going to bed at 4:30 in the morning. And even then, I really didn't get much sleep. My thought here is that this was a time-sensitive situation and that in the morning, I needed to think smart and do the most effective thing first. And when I really started thinking about it, well, we're about 5 miles away from any homes and we're in a desert landscape. So the biggest issue that this dog's going to have is finding water and making sure that she doesn't run further into the wilderness and not towards the town of Delta. If the dog had fallen off the cliff that night, there's really nothing that I was going to be able to do about that. What's done is done, and the best thing that I could do right now was start canvassing the area. The longer that I waited to canvass the area around me, the more likely it is that this dog would be out of range and I would just never find her again. So that was the first step, and I started thinking, how was I going to be able to canvass all this area around me? It was just open desert. You know, I could go on a walk with Ruger and just yell for her and see if she came. I could get out on the dirt bike again and see if I could find her that way, which would be a lot more effective at covering that distance. Then came a much better idea. I have a drone with 3 extra batteries, and each of those last about 30 minutes. And the drone can go up to 11 miles away. So I figured I'm just going to run this drone up and down and make this giant grid and just see what I can find. And that's exactly what I ended up doing. Sunrise was about 6:45, 7 a.m. is when things started to get light. And as soon as it was light out, I put the drone up in the air and just started looking for her. And I went through all 3 of those batteries looking for this dog. We canvassed a lot of mileage. In fact, at one point I had the drone 3 miles away, which was the furthest I'd ever had this drone. It looked like it was some type of cattle dog, and these dogs are known to run a lot of miles. So, you know, the most likely situation here is that if she did run away, she was probably pretty far away. I'm just hoping that she ran in the right direction. And after looking for this dog for about an hour and a half with the drone, there wasn't any sign of her, and I got this pit in my stomach because I knew that that increased the likelihood that this dog had actually fallen off the cliff next to us during the night. And that really made me think, you know, did this dog fall off? Did this happen on my watch? And that gut feeling was really the feeling of knowing that I might be responsible for this dog's death. And that was something that you know, I think for any of us animal lovers, if you're ever put in that situation where you might be responsible for the death of a 4-month-old pup, and a cute one, that does something to you. Really, yeah. But the only thing I could do next was find out. Now, this cliff that we were parked next to was massive. When I looked at the topo maps, it indicated that it was about a 300 to 400 foot drop, and nothing would survive that type of drop. But there's a shelf right below the ambulance. We're talking about 30 feet below it. So if this pup did fall off the cliff and landed on that shelf, there is a slight chance that that dog might still be around, although, either way, it wouldn't be a good situation. So the next step was to find a way to get down to this lower shelf without, falling off the cliff myself. Oh man, this is steep right here. It's all shale too. But I think there's a possibility I can maybe get down through there. All right. Kind of looks like I can get down through there. Oh man. This is not how I thought I'd be spending my morning. I thought I was going to be playing with the new puppy. Not looking for it at the bottom of a cliff. Oh man, I'm a terrible parent. This looks doable. I'm in like the only spot right now that I can potentially get down. And it's still a little freaky. Okay, time to shut off the camera. So I did a little scrambling and I was able to make my way to the second shelf. And by the way, if you're dead set on doing something dumb like this, at least be a little smart and carry something like this with you. This is a Garmin Spot. No, I'm not sponsored by them. I went ahead and purchased this a couple years ago just because when you're in areas where you don't have cell service, at least you can reach out to emergency services this way and, it can be a lifesaver. So if you're going to do dumb stuff, be smart about doing dumb stuff. So the ambulance is right up there. And we're on the second shelf right now. This thing really is overhung. So I just made it down to the shelf underneath the ambulance. And no signs of the dog. And if the dog did fall last night, he would have fallen from here onto this shelf. But that would be a really rough impact, and it's on such a grade. It's like such a slant right here that I think he might have just gone over the big cliff. So if I really want to get peace of mind to know that this dog didn't go over the cliff, I probably need to go down there. And that is going to be really tough to get down. I swear, if this dog just took my water and food that I gave him, and love and pets and all that, and just ran off and has me sitting here looking for him on the side of this massive cliff, gotta admit, be a little pissed at this dog. Making it down to that shelf honestly didn't make me feel too much better because I realized that if the dog had fallen, most likely the dog had just bounced and slid off the cliff and gone over the massive edge that was right next to me. And the only way that I would really be able to get peace of mind here was by evaluating what was at the very bottom of the cliff. This last bit here was just for my own peace of mind to know that the dog had ran off, and I just needed that peace of mind. And because this cliff was so large and just a straight drop, I was going to start out by using the drone like we did earlier. Now, the problem is when using the drone like this is that I can get it down there, but I might lose signal with the drone. The drone has a really long transmission range, up to 11 miles, but problem is you need a direct line of sight. So going over this cliff and lowering it down, well, I was going to lose sight of the drone, and I was going to have to rely on the drone's built-in auto landing feature, so it would fly back to the ambulance and land. But I didn't want to mess with any of that, so I took a hike and was able to find a vantage point where I was able to keep a direct line of transmission with the drone and lower it down. And I gotta admit, it was really difficult looking at the rocks even when the drone was really low on the ground. It'd be really easy for this dog to be completely hidden and just never see her. And as I was flying the drone down there, it was really eerie. There was a lot of trash, there's cars, there was tires. This place seemed to have a story, and it didn't feel like a good one. I flew the drone for about another 45 minutes, and it was just difficult to tell if the dog was down there. I knew that the only way to get absolute certainty was to get down there myself. Alrighty, so even though I flew the drone down to the bottom of the cliff, I can't stand to think of the thought that this dog is at the bottom of the cliff. And so I'm gonna go take a walk down there and see if I can. I just need some confirmation to make sure this dog isn't at the bottom of the cliff. And it's a pretty big drop, so I gotta find a way to get down there without hurting myself all the way down there. So I gotta admit, this is kind of where I failed as a filmer. I didn't end up filming any of this. My phone had died, and then I was kind of in a rush to just get down there and get that peace of mind I was looking for. Now, there was a dirt road in this valley, and I could get to that, but it was going to take me about an hour and a half to drive around and get on that road. So in this case, I decided to grab my climbing gear and do a short rappel. There was a section that was about 20 feet that I was able to get down. I was able to get back up it pretty easy. It was just getting down was a little sketchier than I would prefer to do without any type of safety gear. Like I said, I'm sorry I didn't end up filming this, but I spent about an hour down there on the rocks, and I was able to check out all of the places that I thought, this dog might have landed, and there wasn't any signs of the dog, which, to be completely honest with you, was probably the best thing I could have hoped for. I got the confirmation I needed that this dog had most likely just run off during the night. And while that isn't the ideal situation, it's much better knowing that the dog simply ran off than fell. I think the best case scenario here is that this dog was a farm dog and was somewhat local and was able to find her way back. She seemed really affectionate and ran right up to me, so I have no doubt that she would do this with another person that she finds on the road. And that was enough to make me feel okay. There's a few lessons that I learned in this situation, but I think the biggest one is to know that not every dog is like my dog. I'm really lucky Ruger doesn't go anywhere. He's a Vizsla, and Vizslas are known as the Velcro dogs. They always stick with you. I never have to worry about him running away. He always comes when called, and he's a smart dog. This is something that I shouldn't assume about any other dog. I let the dog out to pee for about a minute and a half before I went to check on her, and she was just gone. She must have bolted because I spent about 2 hours looking for her on the dirt bike and couldn't find her. So that's the big lesson here, is that if I ever did find another dog again, it's get a collar on that thing and get a leash on her. And another reality here is that not every story has a happy ending. Some are cliffhangers. Quite literally. You just will never know what has happened. And in scenarios like this, it's important to realize that if you've done everything that you can, you need to be okay to just let it go and move on. We did end up staying at this camp spot for another night just to see if this dog would come back to us. But then Ruger ended up finding a 400-pound dead pig that was probably in the worst state of decomposition that you could imagine. Someone had dumped this thing in a crevice, and Ruger had rolled in it. and he was just absolutely disgusting. So I had to wash him off and use about 3 days worth of water to get Ruger clean again. It was one of the most disgusting things I've ever dealt with. And that was my signal that this place just had a bad vibe, and it was time to move on and get down this trail. One of the other things that I realized afterwards was just how useful this drone was. Without the drone, this would have been much harder to do. I've realized that the drone is an indispensable tool when I'm out here, not only for checking out routes and seeing what's around me, and in this case, it was an invaluable tool in a search and rescue mission, and it's come in really handy for a lot of things. So, the drone is not only for photography. As much as I enjoy getting good video, it is also a very helpful tool. And if you guys are interested in either the Garmin Spot that I use or this DJI Mini 3 Pro drone, I'll make sure to include links in the description. If you do purchase on those links, I'll get a small commission, which once again helps with the growth of the channel. Now it's time to continue on our trip from Colorado to warmer weather in Utah. If you guys like this video, please subscribe to the channel. It helps out a ton. And I've been able to make these videos because of my Patreon members. They're what's really supporting this channel. So if you guys like what I'm doing, please consider joining over on Patreon. Think of it like a Netflix subscription, except for the content that I produce here. If you do join Patreon, you also get some perks. The first tier, you get early access to all my YouTube videos, as well as a once a week behind the scenes vlog that I do that's just raw, no editing, none of that, letting you know exactly what's going on. And in my second tier, I do a monthly video call with all of those members where we get to talk about whatever you want to talk about, whether it's adventure and overlanding, if you have an ambulance and you're just looking for some feedback on the build, whatever it is, we can talk about it there. Anyways, guys, thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.